Back to my video diary for Agile Coaching Lab. This is end of the second week too, and here are my reflections. This week I guess the focus was broadly on coaching, and we looked at we did 4 exercises and learnings. One was looking at Graham Norton's coaching style. Then we did a consulting exercise. We did an elevator pitch for an Agile coaching role within a company, and then lastly we looked at entering systems. So what did I learn this week? Well, first we and also we did a bit of a voting process. So I've learned a new voting process using like a descriptive scale to get to the point where we're trying to decide on the group name, which was quite funny. So on Graham Norton's coaching skills, what did I learn there? Well, it's interesting observing him. He does actually use coaching skills with his clients, despite his being quite generally, well, certainly in his earlier episodes, quite aggressive with them. For example, he would inquire into the facts. He would give constructive feedback. For example, when an ambulance was required to rescue one of the patrons of a restaurant from dying of food poisoning, he often leads with action. Obviously, he's quite a sort of wolfy leader character, and he would I think he got better at in his later episodes of giving words of encouragement. So one of the questions I had after that, actually, which I'm reading into, is about coaching stance, the different stances you can take as a coach and perhaps while coaching. Someone mentioned he has this kind of cheerleader type stance where he says, "I believe in you" to his clients sometimes. So then we did a consulting exercise, and during that we sort of did this micro consulting process, which all lasted about 6 minutes, I think, so quite compact, where we asked the client what the challenge was. Then we had a couple of minutes to clarify with an inquiry to ask them to clarify. Then we would reflect, give ideation, advice and coaching after that to the client, and finally they'd give us feedback. So that's the way I saw that, similar to a job interview process, and quite useful in coaching and structuring problem resolution in general. I noticed as well that, of course, it was deliberately small, but 2 minutes to inquire and clarify with the client is really short. So the questions have to be very pointed, and you can only work with what you've got at that point. I would probably, in doing this in the real world, I'd probably spend more time there in the clarification phase to, I'll speak a bit more about this, but, to gather understanding. Also there is, so that was the consulting exercise. That was quite fun. Then we went to the elevator pitch, in which we had to create a video in groups. So I was in a group of 3. We had to create a video where we were pitching or selling the idea that an Agile coach is what this company needs, this fictional company that is kind of struggling and losing market share to smaller, more Agile competitors. That was really cool as well. Like a really fun, creative exercise. I always enjoy collaboration with other people, and it was quite funny doing it with other Agile coaches, because we've all got our own strengths and styles. What I personally learned from that was it was another exercise in me letting go of perfection, and getting something done in a short space of time. We ideated, we put together the content, and we created the video in about 2 hours, 2.5 hours max, so that was fun, and we got to the point, and we committed to doing it in 2 hours, so we did it. And again, like me wanting to let go of perfectionism. So it was an exercise in me kind of finding a balance between wanting to provide clarity and value. I guess that's what I'm always trying to provide with my perfectionism. Like, here I'm useful because I can provide this value, versus just with detail. Sorry, so providing too much detail with value, and just providing enough detail and clarity to get the job done. So yeah, so that was a cool process for me to do, and I think probably I could practice more of that sort of thing. And lastly, in the elevator pitch, this is just a good experience of selling an idea or an approach, which, as I mentioned before, would be probably useful in interviews and problem solving in general. Okay, so the last thing we've covered this week was entering systems. So we've learned from that. I've learned, how basically whenever you enter a system as an agile coach, or you observe other people entering a system, it's important to have awareness of yourself, of others in the system, and of course the system as a whole. By system, we just mean the larger group of people in a organization, or team, I guess. Then as well, what's really important then, of course, to follow that is the important thing to do is to take time to observe how the system behaves and how people in it communicate, and then to assess my impact on that system as I enter it. So that goes for anyone entering a new team, or but of course, as a coach as well, coaches are part of the team. They can have a very specific impact, obviously. So to help with that, there was the idea to use curiosity to seek understanding, especially in initial phases of joining a system, and that will help to avoid judgment and jumping to conclusions. You might miss something if you jump to conclusions too soon. You might miss the real issue, for example. And then lastly, when I've noticed as well, like just in sharing my reflections with the group, that when I share my strengths, or when I inspect my own strengths and share them, I tend to offer a balance of celebration and criticism. So I'm wondering if I'm being too honest. Maybe I'm wearing a bit more of the sort of psychotherapy hat that I've learned in the past. So something to think about for me as well. But yeah, so that was all of it. That was what we learned in this week, and how am I tracking with my goals? Well, I've obviously been connecting with people, which is a big part of my intention with this course, and learning and staying on top of the learning, and I'm enjoying the process. So yeah, it's all going really well, and I'll keep at it.